This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2, ready to rock and roll on this Football Friday. We got NFL picks coming up in a half hour with my dad. Looking forward to wrap up the week in style. We went through it earlier, some of the highlight games on this Football Friday across North Dakota, including one out in Bismarck tonight as Century will welcome in West Fargo. Two old rivals. They've played some dynamite games through the years. Pleased to welcome back onto our show, Century head football coach Ron Wingenbach joins us this morning. I've had your son, Kenyon's been on all the time, so I feel bad I haven't had you on in forever, but it's great to see you. How you been?
I've been doing very well. Thanks, Tom.
So tell me about the start to the year here. You got a big win on the road last week through the first 3 games. How do the Patriots look to you so far?
Well, I think number one, our battle cry coming into the season was we had to stay away defensively from the big play, and we're getting better at that. But it still seems to nip us once in a while, and we just got to get better at that. And then on the offensive side, we got to put more points on the board. It's not that we haven't had great field position, but we just got to finish. And I think that's two of the things that are maybe instead of 2-1 or 3-0, we're 1-2 at this point, and it's probably because of that.
To get a road win like you did last week, though, what'd that do for your team's confidence, especially winning at Cheyenne like you did?
Well, that was a big victory for us. It seems like anytime we step on that field, we can expect a great football game. And, we had a big pick 6 late in the game. I think it was third quarter, maybe fourth quarter. But anyway, that was a huge play in the ball game. And we needed that at that point in time. And certainly was a big victory for our team.
Knowing full well, no matter when you guys come on the field, it's Century. You guys got a massive X on your back. For younger generations, how have you handled that with those guys, knowing, hey, their expectations come when you play for Century football?
Well, I think number one, it starts with some of our assistant coaches who were playing in those big games back in 2016 and so on. And I think they kind of remind the team of what it takes, what it's like to play in that type of atmosphere. And certainly every Friday night's a big night in the state of North Dakota across 3A football. So I think it all starts with that. And certainly we bring up a lot of old film when we want to demonstrate or show particular plays or schemes, etc. And we keep reminding them when it was played.
Describe, Ron, for your thoughts, we were talking this a little bit off air on the scheduling-wise, where you have the 4 non-counters and then the 5 league games. Is this a happy medium that you can for scheduling? How do you feel about it right now?
Well, I think it is. Early, I think it was last spring, we had an opportunity to kind of vote as to where we wanted the non-conference games. If we wanted to go to non-conference and then play some conference, come back with non-conference, etc. And the coaches across the state voted to just keep it the way it was, have all the non-conference first, and then finish up with the 5 conference games at the end. And is that the best? I don't know. I think number one, obviously, it gives you a lot of opportunity to kind of evaluate your team. Some coaches will say, well, at that point of the season, too, you might have some injuries that you didn't have early in the season. So it's a catch-22 a little bit, but it is what it is, and that's the way we're going to play it out.
Jay Gibson always told me, "Guy, you're going to see tonight. Like we're going to get through these games; they don't count, and then the ones in the conference count." How do you approach that in terms of we're going to figure it out, and then by the time the league games go, then we're rolling?
Well, I think you have to count. You have to approach it like that because come next. Actually, this Saturday morning, everybody's 0-0 in the West region, and then the big games begin.
You paying attention, though, to other teams? Like, with Legacy's off to a great start. You know what Gibby's done at Bismarck. Are you keeping an eye on what the other schools are doing, though, so far?
Oh, I think with Huddle and the fact that we swap film every week across the state, I think you have a pretty good beat on what everybody's doing and some of their better players and so on and so forth and what they're trying to accomplish. So there's not a lot of big surprises anymore, especially after you've played 4 non-conference games.
Tell me about a couple of your standouts who've really impressed you so far in 2025.
Well, I think we've asked a lot of our players, especially our senior class, probably more so than we would like, but we've got some two-way players that we've had to continue to put out there. We're always awaiting for some of the juniors and sophomores to fill in some depth and so on. But a couple of individuals that have had some great beginnings for us. On the offensive line, we've got Braxton Dahl, a senior, Ian Schweigert, Peyton Seil. I think those three guys have kind of been our stalwarts, especially on the offensive and defensive lines. Braden Morris has been a kind of a two-way guy at our fullback and linebacker position. Xavion Harrelstead, he's been getting some looks from some college teams. And I think the one thing about Xavion has just become a lot more athletic since his sophomore year. And, anytime you can get to a 6'3", 6'3.5" type of wide receiver that can run well and has great hands, they're pretty viable. So I think, I could list some more, but I think those guys right now are kind of leading the team, and Joey Krolick's having a great year at the tight end, D end position. So we got to kind of just jump on their backs a little bit and get us through these next couple of games until we get a couple of guys back to provide some depth.
You got West Fargo tonight. You know what Jay's team always brings to the table. What do you expect out of the Packers at home tonight?
Well, nothing different than we've seen the last 3 or 4 years. The one thing about defensively from Jay Gibson, you know what you're going to get. And it's nothing flashy, but he's very, very solid. They tackle well in space, and they do all the things fundamentally that keep them in ball games. And, like I told somebody, I said they could easily be 3-0 instead of 1-2. And they've played in a lot of close football games up to this point, and I'm sure they're going to come in with a head of steam tonight.
I was talking with Gibby about this, Ron, before the season began, and you've done this for so long. Why, in your opinion, the level of football, how it's gotten so good? We're talking, we got major schools coming in to offer guys. Why, in your opinion, has it gotten so much better in North Dakota over the last handful of years?
Well, I think number one, obviously the facilities and the opportunities for these young athletes to excel in their particular sport. With that being said, I look back at some of the kids that were recruited very highly from Century High School, a lot of multi-sport athletes that did a lot of things well. And at the collegiate level, and unfortunately with the NIL and so on and so forth, but college coaches just want the frame. They want the aggressiveness. They'll do the rest. And I keep telling our athletes that it doesn't matter what you play at the high school level. They will put you where they want you, and they will put the weight, the speed, etc. on that you need. So with that being said, I think we have a lot of blue collar workers here in the upper Midwest, and consequently they're being rewarded.
I had a chance. I was watching a couple of K-State games. I got to see big number 56 and Langang out there. Have you had a chance to visit with him and see his development now to be a regular guy that Chris Kleiman's playing at Kansas State?
I have kept in contact with him, and he's loving it down there. One thing about Andrew, he was such an individual that loved the grind of football, whether it be the weight room, practices, games. He just loved everything about the game of football. And you can kind of see him doing that same thing down there at K-State. And I know they've moved him around. The first game, he played a little bit of right guard and right tackle. And now I think he's kind of honed in on that right guard spot. But, unfortunately, they're off to a slow start. And I know Coach Kleeman, he'll get him going.
The interception he had in the Dakota Bowl, the one where he's sitting down, where does that play rank for you in terms of all-time great plays? Because it just was a phenomenal play.
It really was, and he had some help from his outside linebacker on that particular play. But just to be in that position, I think speaks volumes of not only his awareness but his ability to track the ball and kind of decipher the play before it began.
There's another one of your former players that's made news you may have heard of this week. I was giving you a hard time before that I appreciate you taking my call because the big timers from down the Twin Cities were calling. Describe this week and finding out. I mean, I remember the draft process. We talked often on the Vikings, if it was ever a possibility. And, of course, Carson kept elevating his draft stock that he was going to be a top 3, top 4 guy. How big a deal is this in Bismarck this weekend that Carson is starting for the Minnesota Vikings?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for him, and the Vikings themselves. I know it's kind of funny that you mentioned that because my two sons and I were on a chat there. So about a week ago, when Carson was prepping for his first couple of games there with the Vikes, we kind of thought, well, what if somebody would get hurt and he'd be in? Wouldn't it be ironic that all of this would come to fruition? And it certainly has. And unfortunately, for JJ McCarthy, you just never know. And it's no different at the pro level as it is the high school level. You're always just one play away from being that guy that needs to trot onto the field. And so we certainly wish him the best Sunday.
How often do you still check in? Do you watch all the time? Have you watched, or in terms of Carson's games, and how glued in will you be on Sunday to watch him play?
Well, we'll be definitely glued in. Unfortunately, in the last couple of years, especially when he was with the Chiefs, didn't get much PT. And then with the Rams, he got kind of the last, I believe, mop-up game, if memory serves me right. So, he really hasn't had a game where he's had the full deck in front of him. And, as much as they're beat up here this week, he'll get a pretty good dose of what they're all about, and then hopefully get Addison back next week, and things are going to start looking pretty good for him.
All right, I got to ask this because we haven't done this in a while, but give me your first or initial Carson Wentz memory. What comes to mind the first time you saw him on a football field?
Well, I'll back it up a little bit before that, a little bit on the baseball field.
Okay.
Because when we were playing Little League baseball against him, we were not on the same team, and he was kind of a crybaby. I'll be honest. He was kind of a crybaby. Things didn't go his way. He was not very happy, but he matured through that. And one of the first recollections on the football field is, his sophomore year, as small as he was, I think he was only like 150 pounds. And you could kind of see, though, that he had kind of that moxie about himself and being able to play the quarterback position. And then certainly when he hit the growth spurt and unfortunately had the wrist injury his junior year, and then came back and had a phenomenal senior year.
You remember the first, the college coaches that came in? Who was that, and what was that interaction like?
Well, some of the first college coaches that contacted me was Central Michigan was one of the first ones. And word must have got out because thereafter, between South Dakota State, North Dakota State, University of North Dakota, Montana State, they were all inquiring as to wanting film and so on and so forth. And realistically, back in 2010, Huddle was kind of just getting started. I mean, it wasn't what it is now. And so you kind of had to do your own homework. And certainly I accepted a lot of calls from those coaches, and they all wanted to know, if they could come and visit and so on. But Central Michigan was really kind of the first and foremost call that I got. And like I said, it was just floodgates thereafter.
Just think about that was the first one. It just seems surreal about it and how things ended up. It's great to catch up, bud. Thanks so much for doing this. Good luck tonight. Be well. We'll talk soon, okay?
Thanks, Tom.
Good to see you. There he goes. Ron Wingenbach, head coach, Bismarck Century, legend that he is. Patriots and West Fargo coming up tonight, part of the pack night on First Down Friday. You think of, again, that he had such great teams, and they were unable to win the big one. And then they finally did it in 2015. I'll never forget that. I called that game. Century played Minot that night at the Dome, one of the all-time great Dakota Bowls ever. Just fabulous. Dalton Feeney was unbelievable in that game for Bismarck Century that night. They won the championship that year. They beat Bismarck the following year. And then I think it was 4 to 5 years they were in the title. They won it. They made it in 18, lost to Bismarck that year. That was the year they tried, I believe, the Philly special to win the game and got denied, and Bismarck won. And then they won it again, 19 and 20. They went back-to-back. So on a stretch, they won 4 to 5 years. They won it. They made it back there in 22. That was the year, a couple years ago, when Shanley won it. I think Century was under 500 and then got hot in the postseason and made it all the way to the Dakota Bowl. Just, it was amazing for a team that was always good, and then they finally got one, and then they won a bunch. And now they're always in the mix, and looking forward to see how 2025 plays out for them out west. Good stuff there. We're overdue for a break. We'll take one now. We get caught up. We got a bunch of emails coming in. We'll get to them. Uniform news, yes! Breaking uniform news to tell you about as well. Back on Hot Mike on a Football Friday after this.